You wake up in the morning, you move to sit up, and there it is again. That stiffness in your knees, that dull ache in your fingers, maybe a tightness in your hip that wasn't there 10 years ago, and maybe you've told yourself it's just age, that this is what getting older feels like. But here's what no one is telling you. And this is the part that genuinely surprised me when I first looked into it. The food sitting in your kitchen right now, the one you probably eat every single week, might be one of the biggest reasons your joints feel the way they do. Not some exotic ingredient, not something unusual, something you've been eating your whole life, something that's been considered completely harmless, even healthy, for decades. And today, we're going to talk about exactly what that is, why it affects your body so differently after 60, and most importantly, what you can do about it starting this week. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see your pantry a little differently. Now, before I tell you what this food is, I want to give you a little bit of context, because understanding why this happens makes a huge difference. After 60, your body goes through real changes, and one of the biggest ones is this. Your ability to manage inflammation slows down. Inflammation isn't always bad. When you cut your finger, inflammation is what helps you heal. But when it becomes chronic, when it stays low and steady in the background, day after day, that's when it starts doing damage to your joints, your cartilage, your tendons. Think of it like a slow-burning ember. You can't always see it. You can't always feel it right away. But over weeks and months, it quietly wears things down. Now, what does that have to do with food? A lot more than most people realize, because certain foods, completely normal, everyday foods, are highly pro-inflammatory. They trigger the immune system. They tell the body to produce more of the chemicals that cause swelling, stiffness, and pain. And the food I'm going to talk about today sits right at the top of that list. Researchers have been looking into this connection for years now, and the findings are hard to ignore. All right, so what is this everyday food? It's refined vegetable oil, soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil. These oils are everywhere. They're in the crackers in your pantry, the margarine on your toast, the salad dressings in your refrigerator, the store-bought bread, the frozen meals, the snacks, the cooking sprays. If it comes in a package and it was made in a factory, there's a very good chance it contains one of these oils. Now here's the problem, and I want you to remember this part. These oils are extremely high in something called omega-6 fatty acids. Now, omega-6 isn't evil by itself. Your body actually needs some of it. But the ratio matters enormously. For most of human history, people ate roughly equal amounts of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. A ratio of maybe 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 at most. Today, the average American eats a ratio closer to 20-to-1. Some researchers believe it's even higher, closer to 25 or 30-to-1. And that extreme imbalance is one of the most powerful drivers of chronic inflammation we know of. When omega-6 is chronically elevated without enough omega-3 to balance it, the body starts producing pro-inflammatory compounds almost constantly, and those compounds go directly after your joints. Now, you might be wondering, if these oils are so harmful, why haven't you heard more about this? And why does it seem to get worse after 60 specifically? Both are great questions, and the answer to the second one is really important. When you were younger, your body had stronger defenses. Your liver was better at processing and clearing inflammatory compounds. Your cells had more repair capacity. Your cartilage was better at regenerating. After 60, all of that slows down. Not dramatically, but enough to matter. Cartilage, the cushioning between your joints, doesn't have its own blood supply. It relies on movement and nutrition to stay healthy. As we age, it becomes harder to keep that cartilage nourished and resilient. And when inflammatory compounds are circulating constantly, fueled by that daily dose of refined vegetable oils, cartilage takes a hit it can't easily recover from. There's also a hormonal piece here. After 60, the natural anti-inflammatory hormones in your body, particularly certain forms of cortisol and some protective estrogens, begin to decline. So the buffer that was quietly protecting you for decades starts to thin out. The food hasn't changed, but your body's ability to absorb the damage has. That's why so many people say they started noticing joint stiffness in their early 60s, even though their diet hadn't really changed much. The diet was always the issue. It just took time to show up. So now the question becomes, how do I avoid this? And before I give you the good news, and there is a lot of good news, let me show you just how hidden these oils really are, because I think it'll surprise you. Most people think, I don't fry my food, I don't use vegetable oil to cook, so I'm probably fine. But here's the thing, the vast majority of refined vegetable oil in the average diet doesn't come from the bottle in your pantry. It comes from processed food. Mayonnaise, almost always made with soybean or canola oil. Salad dressings, even the ones labeled light or healthy, check the back of the bottle. Restaurant food, even at sit-down restaurants, most kitchens cook with soybean oil or corn oil because it's cheap and has a high smoke point. Packaged nuts and trail mixes, often roasted in sunflower or canola oil. Popcorn, the microwave kind, almost always has vegetable oil as its second or third ingredient. Frozen meals, frozen pizzas, even frozen vegetables with sauce. Check the label. Crackers, chips, pretzels, granola bars, cereal. If it's packaged, it likely contains one of these oils. Store-bought hummus, store-bought soups, store-bought sauces, and here's the quiet kicker, even some so-called health foods, low-fat yogurts with toppings, protein bars, diet cereals, contain these oils. The food industry relies on them heavily because they're inexpensive, they extend shelf life, and they blend well into almost anything. I want to pause here and explain a little bit of the science, but I promise to keep it simple because this isn't a lecture. It's just context. When you eat foods high in omega-6 fatty acids, your body metabolizes them into a group of molecules called eicosanoids. Some eicosanoids are helpful, but the ones derived from omega-6, specifically from a fatty acid called arachidonic acid, tend to promote inflammation. Omega-3 fatty acids, on the other hand, produce eicosanoids that are anti-inflammatory. They actually help calm things down. When the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 is roughly balanced, your body cycles between inflammation and recovery in a healthy rhythm. Your joints stay lubricated, cartilage has a chance to regenerate, connective tissue stays flexible. But when omega-6 dominates, as it does in the modern Western diet, that cycle tips out of balance. The pro-inflammatory eicosanoids never get enough competition, and the joints, which are constantly under stress just from everyday movement, become a kind of battleground for that inflammation. Multiple studies have looked at this connection. A 2019 review published in Nutrients found a clear association between high omega-6 consumption and increased markers of joint inflammation. Research published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found similar patterns in older adults specifically. This isn't fringe science. It's becoming increasingly mainstream. And the conversation is finally reaching everyday people. Okay, now, for the part you've been waiting for. Because none of this matters if we don't talk about what you can actually do. And I want to start by saying something clearly. This isn't about perfection. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. Small, steady shifts are what make a real difference, especially after 60. The first and most important step is to bring omega-3 fatty acids back into balance. The richest food source of omega-3 is fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, herring, anchovies. If you can eat fatty fish 2 or 3 times a week, you will already be doing something remarkable for your joint health. If fish isn't your thing, walnuts are a great plant-based source of alpha-linolenic acid, which is one form of omega-3. A small handful a day makes a difference. Flax seeds and chia seeds are also excellent. You can stir a tablespoon into oatmeal, yogurt, or a smoothie and barely notice them. The second step is to switch your cooking oil. Extra virgin olive oil is one of the best things you can put in your body. It has a beautiful fatty acid profile, and it contains a compound called oleocanthal that researchers have compared, in terms of its anti-inflammatory properties, to a low dose of ibuprofen. That's not a small thing. Avocado oil is another wonderful option. High smoke point, mild flavor, good for roasting and sautéing. Coconut oil in small amounts is also fine. What you want to avoid is the vegetable, corn, soybean, and sunflower oils, especially for everyday cooking. Now let me give you a practical skill you can use every time you go to the grocery store. It takes about 10 seconds and it will change how you shop. When you pick up any packaged product, flip it over. Look at the ingredient list, not the nutrition label, the actual ingredient list. You're looking for these words: soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil, cottonseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, partially hydrogenated oil. If any of those are in the first 5 ingredients, put it back. Now here's the thing. You're not going to find products with 0 of these oils overnight. That's not the goal. The goal is to reduce your daily exposure, to stop eating them at breakfast, lunch, and dinner without realizing it. For salad dressings, try making your own. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Olive oil, a splash of apple cider vinegar or lemon juice, a pinch of salt, maybe some mustard or garlic. 30 seconds in a small jar. That's it. For crackers and snacks, look for brands that use olive oil or avocado oil instead. They exist. You might need to visit a health food section or shop online, but they're out there. For mayonnaise, there are now versions made with avocado oil that taste nearly identical to the original. Primal Kitchen is one well-known brand, and there are others. These aren't big sacrifices, they're small swaps. And over time, they add up to a very different internal environment for your joints. While we're on the topic of inflammation in joints, I want to briefly mention a few other foods that work alongside refined oils to create that chronic low-grade inflammation. Because the oils are the biggest offender, but they're not working alone. Refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup are major contributors. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, your body releases inflammatory cytokines. Over time, this adds to the burden your joints already carry. White flour products, white bread, white pasta, pastries convert to sugar rapidly in your bloodstream and trigger a similar response. It's not that one slice of bread will hurt you, it's the daily habit of it. Processed meats, hot dogs, deli meats with preservatives, some sausages, contain compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, that directly promote inflammation in connective tissues. Alcohol in excess also matters here. A glass of wine with dinner is generally considered fine for most people, but regular heavy consumption increases intestinal permeability, what some researchers call leaky gut, which allows inflammatory molecules to circulate more freely. And here's the thing, none of these are foods you need to eliminate entirely. This isn't about creating fear around food. Food should bring joy. Sharing a meal with someone you love is one of life's great pleasures. It's about the daily baseline, the things you eat without thinking. That's where the inflammation quietly accumulates. And that's where making thoughtful choices has the most impact. So what does the best possible plate look like for someone who wants to protect their joints after 60? Let me paint you a picture. Your protein comes from fatty fish 2 or 3 times a week. Other nights, it's eggs. The whole egg with that beautiful anti-inflammatory yolk. Or legumes, lentils, chickpeas, black beans, full of fiber and surprisingly anti-inflammatory. Your vegetables are as colorful as possible. Deep leafy greens, spinach, kale, arugula, are rich in vitamin K, which plays a direct role in joint health. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower contain sulforaphane, a compound that is shown in research to help slow cartilage damage. Berries, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, are loaded with anthocyanins, which are natural anti-inflammatory compounds. A handful in the morning over yogurt or oatmeal costs almost nothing but does an enormous amount of good. Turmeric and ginger deserve a special mention. Both of these have been extensively studied for their anti-inflammatory effects. A warm turmeric ginger tea in the evening is one of the simplest things you can add to your routine. It's also deeply calming. A bit of black pepper with your turmeric helps the body absorb it much more effectively. Avocados are wonderful, rich in healthy fats, potassium, and magnesium, all of which support joint function. And don't forget water. Cartilage is roughly 70% water. Staying well hydrated keeps that cartilage cushioned and resilient. Even mild chronic dehydration can make joints feel stiffer than they need to. Now, food is powerful, but it works best as part of a bigger picture. Gentle, consistent movement is essential for joint health. Not because you need to push yourself, but because joints need movement to stay nourished. The cartilage in your joints doesn't receive nutrients through blood vessels. It receives them through the compression and release of movement, a kind of pumping action. Walking is genuinely one of the best things you can do. Swimming and water aerobics are brilliant for people whose joints are already painful because the water supports your weight while you move. Yoga and Tai Chi, both of which focus on gentle, mindful movement and balance, have strong research backing for joint health in older adults. Rest matters too. Deep sleep is when your body repairs itself, including your joint tissues. If you're sleeping poorly, the inflammatory cycle has longer to run unchecked. And stress, chronic psychological stress, raises cortisol in a way that, over time, promotes inflammation. Meditation, gentle breathing, spending time in nature, tending a garden, praying, connecting with people you love, these aren't luxuries. They're biological tools. The body doesn't separate the emotional from the physical. When you feel cared for, when you feel at peace, your immune system literally behaves differently. The inflammation quiets, the healing deepens. You have more power over how your joints feel than you may have been told. People always want to know, if I start making these changes, how soon will I feel a difference? It's a fair question, and I want to be honest with you. The body moves at its own pace. For some people, reducing refined vegetable oils and increasing omega-3 foods leads to noticeable improvement in joint stiffness within 3 to 4 weeks. Not dramatic healing, but a gentle easing. A morning where getting up feels a little less effortful. For others, it takes longer. Joints that have been dealing with chronic inflammation for years don't recover overnight, but the body's remarkably good at healing when you give it the right conditions. What most people notice first isn't actually the joint pain. It's the energy. They start sleeping better. Digestion improves. Brain fog begins to lift a little. Mood stabilizes. Those are signs that systemic inflammation is decreasing. And as that happens, joints often follow. 6 months of consistent, nourishing choices can genuinely change the biological environment inside your body. Not just for your joints, for your heart, your brain, your immune system, your skin. This is the thing about food. When you eat to reduce inflammation, you're not just helping one part of your body. You're creating conditions where every system can do its job better. That's a deeply hopeful truth. I want to say something a little more personal here, because I think this part matters just as much as everything else. Living with joint pain changes how you feel about yourself. It changes your confidence. It can make you feel older than you are, like your body is betraying you. Like the things you used to do easily are slipping away. That feeling is real, and it's worth acknowledging. But here's what I've seen, and what the research supports. People who make these kinds of changes, not out of fear, but out of genuine care for themselves, they don't just feel better physically, they feel more in control, more hopeful, more like themselves again. There's something quietly powerful about looking at your plate and thinking, I know what this does for me. I'm making a choice that's on my side. That act of intentional self-care ripples outward. You start moving more because moving feels a little better. You sleep better because you're less inflamed. You feel more patient, more present, more capable. After 60 is not the beginning of the end. It really isn't. For many people, it's one of the richest chapters of life, if they have the health to live it fully. And the fact that you're here, watching this, thinking about this, that tells me something about who you are. You're someone who cares enough to look for answers. That matters. That changes things. Let me bring it all together for you. The everyday food that is quietly weakening your joints after 60 is refined vegetable oil, soybean, corn, sunflower, canola, and similar oils found in the vast majority of processed and packaged foods. These oils are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids. When they dominate your diet without enough omega-3 to balance them, your body produces a steady flow of pro-inflammatory compounds that wear away at joints, cartilage, and connective tissue. After 60, your body's natural ability to buffer this inflammation has weakened, which is why symptoms may have only recently become noticeable, even if the dietary pattern has been in place for decades. The most important changes you can make, increase fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, and chia seeds. Switch to extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil for cooking. Read ingredient labels and reduce your intake of packaged foods made with refined oils. And add anti-inflammatory foods like turmeric, ginger, berries, and leafy greens to your daily routine. These are not extreme changes. They don't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. They just require awareness and the decision to put yourself first. If this video helped you see things differently today, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And leave a comment below telling me, which food swap are you going to try first? I read every single one. Take care of yourself. You deserve to feel well.